As promised, I'm going to show you 18 ways that you can incorporate these 3M Cubitron 775L film back PSA sanding discs into your shop. So why these discs over other discs? First of all, they're made from the patented 3M precision shaped grain or Cubitron. It's the sharpest, fastest cutting abrasive on the planet. Next, these discs have a film backing, so it's very, very tough. You can't tear these. And so they can stand a lot of abuse. And lastly, they have this stick it, they call it, or PSA backing that sticks very well. It's very sticky, but you can remove it and easily and reposition it. And when you do remove it, it doesn't leave a residue behind. So it's perfect for these applications. So let's jump right in. The first use is used as sanding blocks. So here's different sanding blocks that I have made. Here's one here. Here's a different shape here. Here's a different shape. This one has a safe edge, so I can get into corners without damaging the edge. Here's a round sanding block. So the first use would be sanding blocks. The next use would be hand pads. So hand pads can be simply a piece of paper folded on itself, a piece of paper folded onto a half piece of this craft foam from Michaels, or hand pad here, or even some hand pads that have a little handle on them. These work fantastic. Here's a leather one. So it can be used for hand pads. It can also be used for contour pads, number 3. So here's a simple contour pad, just a little piece of paper folded onto a dowel so you can get into a groove. You can do different sizes here. You can do larger ones with foam, a little bit of padding, or big ones like this to sand things like crown molding. The next use would be sanding files. A sanding file right here. This is the same thing as a metal file, only it's a piece of wood. It just has sandpaper stuck to it. It's got a safe edge. This is great for shaping wood or even for refining joinery like this tenon. So we have sanding files. Now we have corner files, which is here. This is actually one that I use to clean out, make a very sharp corner. It's got a piece of paper here sliced off, another piece of paper here sliced off. Very sharp corner. I can get a nice 90-degree corner, but I can also get a nice smooth corner because I can sand down to 400 grit with this paper. So I've got a groove edge breaker. This will break the edge of grooves. Like if you're running a raised panel door, you can break the 2 edges at one time, or you can use this one here. It's a V shape. So I can run this along a groove and I can put a nice chamfer on both sides of the groove, which is really helpful. We can do flatlap sanding. So we can take discs, these are 6-inch discs, hooked to a piece of plywood, and I was able to flat-lap this handle in really short time, and it gave me a nice, very flat, very smooth surface. So I can flat lap, and on here I have 4 discs, 120, 150, 220, and 320, and I can go all the way to 320 and be very fine. And this handle is fantastic. Perfect for that, flat lapping small parts. Taper sander on the lathe. So when I turn, I'm not a very good turner, so sometimes when I want to make a nice consistent taper, there's usually little undulations in my taper. So I tape put 2 discs to a board, and I just push this against my part on the lathe, and I can get a nice straight edge. Start at 120, end up at 220, and this little piece now has a perfectly straight taper. Disc sander on the drill press. This is huge. This right here has a little mandrel that's very inexpensive. I hook it to a piece of plywood. I put a disc on top and a disc on bottom. The disc on top I can use to sharpen things like chisels. I can flat lap chisels. And the bottom, and I can actually set it up where I push boards underneath, and I can actually dimension thin stock, and it works very well. I can also use it as an anti-slip surface on jigs. Put a little piece of paper here. When I clamp this down, this thing isn't moving. I can do a shooting sander. This thing here works in my shooting board. Works the same way as a low angle plane, only it uses sandpaper so there's no tear out. This thing is a fantastic addition to my shop. I used it, I stuck a couple of discs to my table saw, and I was able to flat lap this plane in no time. This plane was in bad shape. So I started at 80 grit, worked up to 200 grit, and in no time this thing was flat. You could stick them to your table saw or to your joiner bed. The other thing I use them for is this is a little chamfer sander, so I can actually sand a perfect 45 on boards. And I have different versions of that. Some of these you can have it set up where you can actually move this back piece and you can expose sharp paper. So I've made several different versions of that. These are great for not only creating a chamfer, but also refining like a router, like a chamfer that you made with the router bits. inside curve sander. This thing here, it flexes, and I can actually use it, and I could flex it, and I could sand it inside curve, like on this one here, this piece here. I could sand this curve, and it would be perfectly fair. So that's a great thing. And I can also use it on inside curves, but also outside curves. I actually stick a disc sometimes to my table saw. When I have a chair that's rocking, I can stick a disc to my my table saw table, and then I can just slowly grind down the long legs and get a chair perfectly level. That's another use for it. Sanding drums. I can make sanding drums with this. This is just 2 pieces of plywood, so it's 1 inch thick. Stuck some discs on here, and this worked quite well to fair this inside curve and also the outside curve. Really great job. It's a nice little application of the discs. Another use for it would be to, like, let's say that I have this chair piece here. These are chair legs, and I have the back. This is the top rail, and these are flat, and I need them to more contour to this curved piece. I tape an 80 grit disc to the actual part, and then I can move this back and forth, and after a little bit, I can actually sand a curve into this top of this chair leg and refine this joinery so it fits perfectly. And the last use would be what I call a square edge sander. This actually is a little piece of wood. It's just cut at a 90 degree. Put some paper on here, and I can use it as a joiner. I can straighten the board, and I can also join it to a 90 degree angle. So there you have 18 uses for these discs in the shop. I recommend that you pick some of these up, have them on hand, because you never know when you'll need them. And when you do need them, they will do a great job for you.